I'm Tim Fry, the director of the Harriman Institute. The Harriman Institute has been in existence since 1946, and we've had many interesting speakers over the years, but I think this is the first time we've had the heavyweight champion of the world grace our stage. It's my great pleasure to introduce Vitaly Klychko, who has not only been very successful in sport, many of you may not know, but he also has a PhD in sports science, and you can refer to him as Dr. Klychko, therefore. And as successful as he has been in sports and in academia, he has now, as many of you know, turned his attention to politics. And since 2006, he's been a member of the Kiev City Council. In 2008, he became a member of the Ukrainian delegation to the Congress of the Council of Europe. And in April 2010, he became a leader of a party, the Ukrainian Democratic Alliance for Reforms, with what I think is one of the best short names, UDAR, which I think fits Vitaly Klychko perfectly. The title of his talk will be, What Future is There for Ukraine? He will speak for about 25 minutes, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. So I hope you'll all join me in welcoming Vitaly Klychko.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, dear friends. I would like to thank Harriman Institute and its director, Timothy Fry, also Marko Andrichik, and Ambassador Valery Kuchinsky for the chance to be today here, to have a chance to talk about Ukraine, to explain about the whole situation in Ukraine, to tell about our party, new political movement. Our party, and after that, after the speech, I hope we have a chance, the best one, we have a discussion, and you have a question, and I hope my answer will be full. I want to say thank you, sorry for my English, it's not perfect, but I give my best. UDAR is a new political party in Ukraine. We're very young. We're just 1.5 years old. But today, we're number 4 biggest party in Ukraine, and we have pretty good support in Ukraine. If election will be tomorrow, our party will be in parliament, and we very appreciate for everybody who hope we can change the rules in Ukraine, and we give the best to do that. What does UDAR stand for? Ukraine, because we are proud to be Ukrainian. Democratic, because democratic values is the best value, and the world has not created a better political system than democracy. Alliance, because we try to unite all Ukrainian. It's just all together we can make the changes in Ukraine. Reform, because our alliance put at the center of activities Ukraine people and citizens who want to live in better country, and only real reform for the people have a chance to change Ukraine. My speech today, I would like to focus your attention on 3 important topics. First, I would like to tell you a little about myself and about the goals and objectives of our party, UDAR. Second, I would like to tell you about some of the problems, issues facing in Ukraine today and who the country against system be standing. First, I would like to tell you about my and UDAR vision for fixing the situation in Ukraine and some of the first steps we believe need to take Ukraine put back in democratic path. About us. Last month, Ukraine celebrated 20 years independence. I remember this time very well. 20 years ago, I was young man, I was 20. Everybody worked for independent Ukraine. Everybody, we hope, good future for our country. We're voting for democracy. We have a dream to build new democracy, independent country. But unfortunately, 20 years later, the situation is much different. Let me tell a few numbers, because the numbers don't have emotions. 63% of Ukrainian believe the country developed the wrong direction. More than 50% of Ukrainians don't believe any political party, any politician. Every Ukrainian wants to look in the future with confidence, but we can't. Don't have normal living standards. We Ukrainian people who have jobs is not confident that we'll keep them. More than 20% population looking for employment opportunities outside of Ukraine. Many people believe Ukraine is stealing back its commitment to democratic values. Everyone is worried about which way we go and which way going country, and many people have a question. Some say we are returning to autocracy. Many of yours, I don't know, it's follow sport career of brothers Klychko, and just few weeks, 3 weeks ago, many of you have a chance to see the fight in Poland. I want to say thank you for sport. Sport have given me opportunities to travel around the world, to meet new people, to understand mentality of nations, to meet many different people, many religions, many culture, and couple of weeks ago I fought in defend my world title in Poland. Last time I was in Poland beginning of the 90s. We have actually beginning of the 90s almost the same starting position. Ukraine, Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary. Today, these countries already members of European Union. And I see how is big different today between Ukraine and Poland. And I give me question, why? Why we miss the time? Why this life standards in these countries, with who we starting to build independent countries, democratic countries, so big and so different? We speak about huge potential, what have Ukraine in 20 years, and we continue to talk about potential in Ukraine, and today we believe we need to realize potential what we have. What we propose. Ukraine needs reform to change the country. Unfortunately, from the government, all we get is top-down reform. The reforms are more for the power, not for the people. It's a great example. The party of power, the beginning reform in Ukraine. Everybody understands Ukraine needs reform, but reform for himself, not for the people. If politician, politician don't have a feel what people need, if politicians lose the contact with the people, they don't have a future. A good example, today government, just a year ago, the government's beginning with a reform, tax reform. Immediately, the next days, hundreds of thousands people go onto the street and protest against this reform, because reform doesn't support the interest of small and middle business. Exactly the same example about pension reform. The government decide we have to make exactly the same age, pension age, like in Europe. We want to live with European numbers, but they forget about life standards in Europe and life standards in Ukraine. And not everyone can reach new pension age and understand what is mean pension reform to feel that. Because in Ukraine, people live much shorter than people in Europe. It's everything depend of life standards. We believe that the main goal of politicals is not hear and to hear and understand the people. People as government have lost the trust of today of many people in Ukraine. What kind of reform? What we need in Ukraine immediately to change? Last couple of days, the news from Ukraine was headline everywhere in the world. And that's why, first very important point, stop persecution of the opposition and start a serious dialogue between government and opposition. its call on the immediately release of Tymoshenko, Lutsenko, and others, leaders of opposition. The charge against them, the political, and have nothing to do with the rule of law. Second, stop suppression of free speech and breaking free meetings. Those who defend their rights to oppose the tax or pension system should not be detained for expression their opinions or gathering in front of public buildings. The next point. Adopt the election law for next year, 2012, which fair rules that clearly reflect the will and wishes of voters, including candidates from open political party list. Involving youth and women in political life will help us modernize our society. Women make up 63% Ukrainians voting population, but the majority in power the men. Our party in city council and 30% women, and we very happy with that, and we want more women in our party. The next point. Ukraine needs reforms. We need to move from closet oligarch economy, which monopolized, to economy is equal opportunities, allowing small and medium business to make money, creating opportunities for the young people will stop the immigration to Europe. Foreign investors will return to our country, to Ukraine. The next point, implementing a consistent policy of European integration is a guarantee of Ukraine democratic development, will return trust to government and politics. However, European integration has two components, democracy and economic. They go hand in hand. One cannot flowering without the others. We talk, I hope I explained a little bit about our party, about UDAR, and about situation in Ukraine. I hope in discussion we have to open many questions. Last 20 years, we talk about potential, what we have in Ukraine. 20 years celebration. 20 years go so fast, like 1 minute. I don't want in 20 years, the next 20 years will be going so fast like last one. And I don't want to tell about time of missed opportunities in 20 years. And that's why, together with people who have exactly the same vision, with people who have exactly the same values, the people who change our vision, we see Ukraine as democratic country with huge potential, and we don't want to wait next 20 years. We know we can make a change in Ukraine very fast. For that, we need political will, and we're ready for that. we invest our time, energy, and vision, and know we can do that. Thank you very much for your time. It will be, I hope it will be much easy and much more interesting to starting to talk, because in discussion we can open many questions much better, and dialogue between the people is always good. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that wonderful speech. Yuri Shevchuk will be translating your questions and Mr. Klychko's responses. If I could ask anyone who would like to ask a question to go to the microphone in the back of the room, and we'll take your questions one by one. This is what we like to see, a student coming up and asking the first question. We like that very much.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Klychko. My question is, you mentioned in your speech that it's necessary for Ukraine to move away from this sort of hidden, oligarchic, corrupt economy. And how concretely can Ukraine do that? What concrete steps for economic reform?
Відійти від прихованої олігархічної економіки. Як реально це можна зробити?
Українською чи англійською? Thank you for your question. Хочу подякувати за ваше запитання. Краще мікрофон. Хочу подякувати за ваше запитання. По-перше, англійською. English is better. I'm sorry for mistakes. If I need support of translator, sorry. If you don't use language every day, you lose the language, and that's why I travel around the world, and pretty long time was outside of the country. That's why my English not perfect, and that's why I'm sorry for that. First of all, Ukraine have great opportunities. It's very painful to read Ukraine is most corrupted country in the world, and it's biggest reason why Ukraine doesn't develop don't make a step to European integration. And where is the problem? Problem is many investors ready to come into Ukraine. To develop business, but in Ukraine we have ми не маємо рівні умови для бізнесу.
Business doesn't enjoy equal opportunities.
Business doesn't have equal opportunities in Ukraine. It's people in politics. Why? It's an unusual situation. Sportsmen go to politics. Many of people ask me, why you do that? Are you a sportsman? You can enjoy the time? Because I travel around the world, I see how developed the country in Europe. I see life standards in the United States, life standards in Europe, and if we come back to Ukraine, we give a question. Very simple things. What work around the world in modern countries doesn't work in Ukraine. Where is the reason? The answer is simple. The people in government, the people who decide which way we go, they announced right things. We go to Europe. It's European value. It's priority for us, but they is not interested to change the situation, because politics for them is simple business. They make big money. They come to politics and support financial group who have monopoly in Ukraine, and that's why the economic in Ukraine doesn't have equal opportunities. How we break the system, corruption system? We have is just a couple of points, very important points. We have to return повага до закону,
Respect for law.
Respect for law. The second point, побудова гражданського суспільства,
Construction of civil society
яке повинно контролювати владу.
that has to control the power.
And main point, what we need political will to change that. And we have good examples in past time when political leaders doesn't have political will, and we have good examples, for example, small country as Georgia have make a good steps and make good reforms and win against corruption. Good results in war against corruption. It's main point. If we can realize that, we can change our system. And main point, what can't bring our country to modern world is corruption. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions, please go to the microphone in the back of the room. Next question, please.
Who are some of the political thinkers and philosophers who have most influenced your thinking? And also, who are some of the political leaders, past and present, who you most respect?
Які політичні мислителі, філософи вплинули на ваше думку і теж політики?
I read very often. Many politicians make very good influence in politics. Churchill, Konrad Adenauer, Lincoln. It's many, it's many of examples of different. It's every politician have make a good decision in right moment, and every politician. It's very interesting to read the memoirs of politicians. They told, we are right now, it's not by power, and right now we can explain truth. What does it mean? And it's mean it's they by power don't explain. They explain all truth. It's interesting to read many different politicians. I hope from the present time, it's difficult to say. Politics is just instrument to make changes in society, and that's why I go to politics, and that's why it's many young people support us, and also look not to be the politician, but we doesn't have another chance. We have great saying. You. Can you help me? Чи ти будеш займатися політикою? Very popular in Ukraine. Чи ти будеш займатися політикою, чи політика почне займатися тобою?
Either you engage in politics or politics will start taking care of you.
Thank you for the question.
Next question, please.
All All right, I will answer. I will ask the question in Ukrainian and then I'll answer it ask it in English. Пане Кличко, ви приїхали тут до одного з найкращих університетів світу. Я вам хочу сказати, що як Польща стала демократичною державою в початку 90-х років, прем'єр-міністр Польщі був з цього університету, а міністр закордонних справ був з Принстону. Тут до Америки приїжджає приблизно в тій хвилині 1700 студентів з України, які кінчать найкращий диплом. На жаль, демократичні ресурси тих не цікавляться тими елементами. І ви знаєте, хто є Кирил Дмитрієв? Він повернувся на Україну після помаранчевої революції, і його демократичні сили, як би сказати, зігнорували, і його тепер наняв президент Медведєв, що він очолював Russia Direct Investment Fund. Okay, so the reality is that when Poland became a democratic country in the early 1990s, the prime minister of Poland was a graduate of this university. The foreign minister was a graduate of Princeton. The democratic forces have shown no interest in any of this talent from Ukraine, which has come here. There are 1,700 students here at any one time. I'm sure there are several PhDs in this auditorium who could provide good language skills. Why aren't the democratic forces interested in any of this talent and ignore it? And I can provide many specific examples of this. Kirill Dmitriev returned to Ukraine after the Orange Revolution, and he's a Harvard MBA, a Stanford undergraduate, worked for McKinsey, and he left Ukraine because the democratic forces were not listening to him.
Okay.
And he was hired by President Medvedev to begin and run the Russian, direct investment fund.
Great, thank you.
Where are your experts, and where are you finding them?
Чому демократичні сили не зацікавлені в використанні всіх цих талантів, які тут виховані, які мають кваліфікації?
I'm sorry, maybe the question is, I know Kirill Dmitriev very well, but I listened his take education in Harvard, or he studied here.
He did an MBA at Harvard.
It's very good question. Thank you very much. It's very important to, if you see the view to Ukraine, if you see how politicians work in Ukraine, they promise so much clear numbers. More than 50% of population in Ukraine don't believe any politician, any political party. Why? Because they promise a lot. They fighting for the power. If they come to the power, they support the interest of party, they support the interest of financial group, they doesn't support the interest of the people. And they was many times in power. They changed. They was many times a prime minister. People who promised was the president and don't keep his promising. Don't change whole situation in Ukraine. Don't keep his promising. And that's why it's very important, it's big percentage of people not interested in politics anymore in Ukraine. It's very passive and don't believe the politician can change something for the country, can change something for the people, and it's very important to change the generation of politicians who have a chance many times to make reform, have many chance to keeping his promising and realized in life what he say. But the speeches of Ukrainian politicians is perfect. They say right things, but the distance between to say and to doing, it's pretty long. And they say, but nobody realized his promising in the life. And that's why it's great way do it Saakashvili. I make example Georgia as one of the example. Many people who is young people, who is good educated, he is not involved in corruption network what was in Georgia, can change a lot. And main point, I talk about that today, political will to change. It's main point for make reform in country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Добрий день. I have two questions. One is very short. What is your view on status of Ukrainian language?
And what's your second question? Also,
And
try
the
to keep it
second
short.
question, you mentioned that you wanted to do electoral reform. We know that since independence in 1991, Ukraine has changed electoral laws 3 times. So it seems like if we change it one more time, and you will will make an open party list, then there will be so many parties. As we know, they can never reach consensus. So what is the point of changing the electoral law again?
Good, thanks.
The question of language is very important for Ukraine, important and not. The same time. In Ukraine, more than 70 nationalities. Many people speaking different languages. Many people have different religion, go to different church. And yes, of course, if you live in Ukraine, if you politician, if you have if you politician, if you I'm sorry for my English, I try to find the right words, you have to talk in Ukrainian. I'm actually Russian, Ukrainian who speak Russian. I speak right now good Ukrainian, but I study Ukrainian a little bit later. And in latest years, I began to study 10 years ago Ukrainian. Many politicians try to play with this card. The difference between Ukrainian. Half of Ukrainians speak Russian, half of Ukrainians speak Ukrainian. They told Ukraine for Ukrainian. One language. Religion question. We have to concentrate attention for question which united our country. And I told to everyone, it's not important which language you speak. It's not important which nationality you have. It's not important which religion you have. It's much more important if you live in Ukraine. You love this country or not? Second question. I understand you speak Ukrainian. Мої друзі підказують мені, щоб я обов'язково висловив таку тезу, і це обов'язково. Я завжди повторяв, і зараз хочу повторити, що державна мова в Україні, це немає ніяких сумнівів, повинна бути українська.
My friends are prompting me. My friends are prompting me to voice the following argument that there is no doubt that the state language in Ukraine must be Ukrainian.
Election law. We built a democratic country, and but we play in на чужому полі, як сказати.
On foreign field, on somebody else's field.
In foreign field, because before election, a local election, is party of power allowed to take a part of election just 1 month before election. They forbidden to take a part of election young parties, and that's why we show a great result, but we have just 1 month for preparation. It's very good base for party of power. Right now, in 1 year, we know it will be election. We discuss about election law, but nobody see election law. And that's why is, in this situation we have to be prepared for different scenario. Its main point for what we have to prepare. We meet the people, we explain our vision, we explain our value, and we explain many of Ukrainians have a chance to see the different life standards, European life standards, and more than half of Ukrainian believe Ukraine will be European country, and our direction, in our value, European value, and I'm more than sure we European with our culture, we European with our history, we European with our mentality, but we far away from Europe, from life standards and standards of law, and that's why we have to change in Ukraine a lot, and also election law. Right now we doesn't have a chance to change that, but we work pretty hard, and I hope our goal to be party of power and make changes in Ukrainian politics, and bring Ukraine close to European value. Thank you.
Next question, please.
You've been talking about Europe a lot, that you like to join the European Union. Do you have any fears that if Ukraine does join the European Union, and if they do use the euro, that it might be dominated by Germany and France? And a lot of countries now, the acronym PIGS, Portugal, Italy, Ireland, Greece, and Spain, they're having a lot of problems because you said there's European values, but the differences even between Greece and Germany are just enormous and stuff. And you used to talk that there are different life standards in Ukraine and Germany, which is, most people think dominates the EU. Do you worry that Ukraine would be a very small player in the new European Union if it was to join the European Union?
Ви не боїтеся, що коли Україна вступить до Європейської спілки, то вона буде домінуватися такими великими членами спілки, як Франція чи Німеччина. Дивіться, що зараз відбувається з Грецією, з Португалією, з Італією, які, в суті, між ними і Францією, і Німеччиною є велика різниця. І є небезпека, чи є, на вашу думку, небезпека, що Україна буде просто дрібним таким гравцем у європейській спільноті?
The question, who will be dominate in European Union, and right now the Germany, and if I right understand your question, it's not about the domination, it's about rules, about standards, about standards of life, and that's why yes, Greek have a problem right now, financial problems, but all the European Union, if Greek, they have the same standards, same standards in law, in European standards in law, in European Union, and with the same standards right now, it's actually Greek part of European Union. And main point for Ukraine to have the same standards of law. Ukraine announced our goal, European Union, our direction, our vision, our value is European, but I talk about that huge difference between talk and doing. And It's European European value if we doesn't have dialogue between the power and opposition. After demonstration, I explained today about demonstration small and middle business. He support his rights. Immediately, next week, the leaders of demonstration go to jail. Is democratic value or not? Exactly the same about Ukrainian politics. The leaders of opposition, one, and after that another one, go to the jail. We doesn't have a discussion between the power, the party of power and opposition. It's directly way to autocracy. And we live pretty long time in Soviet Union. We know what is mean dictator, and we know what is it freedom. We want to build democratic country, and that's why we today. It's painful to read the numbers in newspaper when right now is some countries, European Union blocked agreement of European Association of Ukraine. It was first step to Europe. Why? Because Ukrainian party of power break all rules. In whole world understand that. Whole world criticize that. And if we want to be part of European Union, first point, we have to understand European value and live with exactly the same rules which live whole Europe. It's a question who will be the leader of European Union. My opinion is not the point where we have to concentrate. No questions. Economically, Germany and French leaders, but they biggest donors for another countries, for another members of European Union, and help for countries a lot. And yes, of course, European Union, very interesting to have Ukraine, the country, second largest country in Europe, with stable economy, with stable political situation, and board of European Union. They very interested. But right now, everything depends of Ukrainian citizen. In just one way, legally, to change whole situation. It's election in next year. The politicians have to change in Ukraine. That's why our political party prepare for election 2012. And we hope the election in 2012 will be litmus test. It's right. It's litmus test for Ukrainian democracy. We need support for international international observers. Yes, of course, we need the help for European Union, from American, to control fair game in Ukraine politics. But everything depends of us. And one more point I want to talk about that. In Ukraine, also in the United States, it's many people. I call these people armchair experts. They sit in the home front on TV, they write this article, they explain the opinion, but from them depend nothing. We have 5,000, 10,000, millions of these experts, they can't change nothing. That's why we go in politics. That's why we think, we have a dream, and we do it. It's not easy game. I know it's cost a lot of energy, time, and it's huge stress, but we know, we believe in ourselves, and we believe Ukraine have all chance to be a democratic country, and we don't want to wait, and that's why we are right now in politics. Thank you for your question.
Next question, please.
Thank you very much for your very thought-provoking speech.
We have classes scheduled at 1 o'clock, so some of the students might have to leave. This is not voting with their feet.
I hope it's not so boring.
No, not at all.
So you mentioned that Ukraine needs to accelerate its economic growth. And at the same time, you mentioned that economics and democracy go hand by hand. But however, if we look around the world, the strongest growth doesn't occur under democracy. It occurs pretty much under dictators. If you, for instance, look on China, or like, for instance, under Pinochet, Chile went from zeros to heroes, and we don't actually observe examples of such a fast growth under democracies. So globally, it doesn't look like democracy and economics go hand by hand. Why do you think that in Ukraine they will go together?
Що демократія і економічний розвиток взаємопов'язані, але якщо дивитися на світовий досвід, то найвищі темпи економічного розвитку в країнах, таких як Китай. Тобто, чому ви вважаєте, що Україна буде визнана, якщо там демократія буде означати обов'язково економічний, високий темп економічного розвитку? Китай не демократія, але найвищий економічний розвиток там.
It's much easier will be in Ukrainian. Якщо дати можливість людям бізнесу будувати бізнес, будувати відносини на умовах конкуренції і рівних можливостей, це прямий путь до розвитку, економічного розвитку будь-якої країни. І це вже доказав світовий досвід і багато прикладів в історії.
If people who engage in business are given the opportunity to do business based on competitiveness and equal conditions applicable to all, that's one of the most important prerequisites of economic development. And the world experience has proven that all around the world.
Питання Китаю і прав людини, і демократії, про яку ми говоримо, ми бачимо, що на сьогоднішній день в Китаї така смішана система, вони дали можливість бізнесу, і на сьогоднішній день Китай зрозумів це, якщо не давати можливості конкуренції, якщо не давати інвестиціям, якщо не давати деякі речі людям, які займаються бізнесом, то неможливо робити економічні реформи. Вони зробили економічні реформи і отримали дуже непоганий результат, про який ви говорили.
As far as the case of China is concerned, what they have is, okay, we know the situation with human rights there and democracy, but what they have is a kind of a mixed system. When the Chinese authorities gave themselves a clear account of the importance of giving their businesses equal opportunities and creating for them a competitive environment within which they could develop. And also the importance of fulfilling economic reforms as a condition for such a rapid economic development.
Я знайомий, у мене дуже багато друзів-китайців, з якими ми спілкуємося, і вони кажуть, що переміни йдуть, зміни йдуть, але, на жаль, не так швидко, як вони бажали би цього.
I have many Chinese friends, and I speak with them quite often, and they say that the changes actually take place, but they're not as quick as they would wish them to be.
Китай на сьогоднішній день трошки інший, ніж Китай 20 років тому.
The China of today is somewhat different from the China of 20 years ago.
І керівництво зробило всі умови для розвитку бізнесу. На жаль, до демократії дуже далеко, але на сьогоднішній день ми живемо в глобальному світі, і окремо жити від інших держав, окремо жити в глобальному світі на сьогоднішній день неможливо.
The authorities created all conditions necessary for the development of business. However, what we have in China is very far from democracy. On the other hand, China exists in a global world and cannot be permanently isolated from what's going on in the world.
І дякую за питання, і впевнений, що велике питання ще часу.
Thank you for your question, and I think that it's also a question of time as far as China is concerned.
Yuri Shevchuk has done a great job translating, and so I think it's only fair that he should be allowed to ask a question as well. So Yuri.
Thank you so much. I will ask my question first in English, and if our guest... I teach Ukrainian language here. I have taught here for 7 years, and of course the language issue is something that I'm both professionally and emotionally invested. And my question is, it's all wonderful and that you support the state status for Ukrainian language. However, the situation in Ukraine is such that if a person, with all goodwill, would like to learn Ukrainian, and I compliment you on learning Ukrainian, it's a huge challenge to do that, because unlike, for instance, in Canada or the United States, there's no such a thing in Ukraine as free of charge language courses in which you can enroll and just go in the evening and have a highly qualified instructor of language who will teach you the language that is supposed to unite that multi-million nation into one, not be the cause for division, but really for unification of that. And the language issue has been all the time exploited by politicians, and I must say very effectively to divide the nation. Do you have a kind of a tangible, concrete program to implement this absolutely wonderful principle of supporting Ukrainian as a state language? And why I am at it, I would like to give you a little present from our program, because we invited you here at the Ukrainian Studies program. We just published this book of Ukrainian language for beginners. I would like to take it with you to Ukraine, and as a kind of a sign that Ukrainian can be not only supported declaratively, but in deeds, and use this perhaps. Not you yourself. You have already conquered it, but probably just show it around and.
Thank you. To give you an answer for your question, it's just a simple point. How we bring people to learn Ukrainian and to speak Ukrainian language. The government from the past tried to push the people to learn language. It's wrong way. Have to be modern to speak Ukrainian. It have to be cool to speak Ukrainian. Especially for young generation, it will be automatically. And people
To identify themselves.
Identified himself, and if they want to be, and it will be modern, it will be automatically. It's not the question. Right now, many politicians in Ukraine play the language question as a political card. We for the language, we somebody who doesn't speak Ukrainian is not Ukrainian anymore, and they play duty game. It will be much easy to make modern. This is a language to show a good example. It's much more effective for make a language, Ukrainian language in Ukraine, most modern language. Fashionable. Yeah, fashionable. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please.
Hello. In preparation for today's meeting, I read carefully the program of your political party, and I was very pleasantly surprised with a very big and rather elaborated chapter on ensuring gender equality with a very profound understanding of the issue. I would very confidently state that your party is probably the only one in Ukraine to make such strong claims and to offer such a radical action plan for gender equality. And this is what the gender rights advocates would only dream about. And would you excuse me for saying the following? It sounds too good to be true. And my suspicion has a reason. I come from Lviv, and in Lviv, the Lviv branch of your party recently introduced the local agenda for the city development. It contains 10 positions, and there is no mention of gender issues whatsoever in that plan. So it looks like there is a slight gap between the big declaration and the practical implementation of those declared principles. So my question is, how serious are you and your party about gender equality, and what are your real commitment to implement the principles of gender equality in Ukrainian society, or it is perhaps just the very instrumental use of gender issues to improve the international image of your party to be the most advanced ever? Thank you.
I smile because I came to the United States not alone, together with my friends, and I have here in what about gender politics, my friends, he's so huge experts in this question, and I just touched the question in my speech. I'm more than sure we have to involve more and more women to politics, and 30% of I present 30% in city council in Kiev. The members of our party is women. I wish more women, not because I like so much women. I like it. No, it's also the reason because you know about what I talk. It's Ukrainian women have some special mentality, some special quality. They they take responsibility for work much more harder than men, and I'm sorry for that. It's real, and. And gender politics in it's we have a big platform and many points in our program. Що стосується Вибачте, будь ласка. I'm sorry, it's pretty long time doesn't have practice in English, and that's why I try to find the words. Що стосується джендерної політики, я хочу звернутися до вас. Ви можете ознайомитись більш докладніше за всіма пунктами, які у нас в нашій програмі є, і ми підтримуємо це і знаємо, що це дуже важливе питання. Це питання, на жаль, жодна партія, політична партія не виносить, але в сучасному світі це питання стоїть дуже гостро.
We are fully aware of the great importance of gender politics, and we are probably the only party in Ukraine that gives such importance to this issue, and you can familiarize yourself with that in our program.
Thank you very much.
Next question, please.
Can you hear me? Thank you for coming out. Good to see you. I hope you come more often. The Ukrainian Democratic Alliance for Reform, the UDAR party, it's a new party. It was founded last year, right? April. First, I want to say good luck with the party. I hope you make progress. I need fresh blood in there. There's a lot of people who need to get washed out of there. And my question is, from personal experience regarding entering the politics world over there, do you feel threatened at all? Do you feel what negative experiences have you had there, and do you see improvement from the 90s? That's one part of the question. Second part of the question is, what concrete steps do you plan on taking to keep expanding your support base? Thank you.
Can you repeat the second part? I didn't hear you.
Первый вопрос насчет безопасности. Чувствуете ли вы безопасно там, входя в политику, учитывая все истории, которые там были в 90-е годы и в прошлые годы? И второй вопрос, какие шаги вы планируете брать, чтобы продвинуться дальше, чтобы больше публики под себя подтянуть?
I want to tell you, Ukrainian politics is something special. If we talk about politics generally, and Ukrainian politics is we built wild capitalism, and Ukrainian politics is I'm boxer, but in Ukrainian politics I feel me like in fight without rules. And if you ask me about the dangers, yeah, it's dangerous. Is life. Not democratic countries cost nothing, and the main point in every democratic countries, modern countries, it's human freedom. In Ukraine, main value. Not the human, not the freedom, is the money. And we want to change this situation. What about dangers? It's, yeah, the risk there, and but main point, give to us so much power. We defend the interest of the people, the right of the people. And that's why we're right. That's why we fight not for our party, not for us. We fight for the interest of country, the interest of population. And what about the risk? Risk is. We don't think about that. We just do it, and
so no threats, no negative experiences so far.
Yeah, we negative experience. I know politics is duty game. Before I came to politics, I came to politics with 6 years ago with. Rosy glasses, and glasses fall down, and very fast. And I know it's a duty game, but I don't think it's so duty. I have a negative experience. I read about me and my family, so many things, but thanks, nothing special happens, and I hope it's not happens in the future.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that we should wrap up because you would like to meet with some of the members of the audience and perhaps sign a few flyers and things if we could. So with that, I'd like to, I'm sorry that we don't have time for more questions. I'm not sure if you think that the boxing ring or the open auditorium is a more dangerous place, given that the questions, nobody pulled any punches with their questions, which is we always like to see. I would just like to thank everybody for coming, and if we could have a big round of applause for our speaker. You want to do one more? Okay. Maybe we have time for one more quick question, and then we'll ask people to come up and we with Mr. Klychko.
Я називаюся Ярослав Полинський, я ще до сьогодні членом Академії наук, дійсним членом Академії наук в Україні, і я служив в Україні майже 20 років як директор Інституту європейських досліджень Академії наук України. Пане Кlychko, перше запитання. Якщо би ви були обрані президентом або стали прем'єром, що ви би зробили в справі несамовитої корупції, яка панує сьогодні в Україні? Це є перше питання.
I am a member, I have been for 20 years a member of Ukrainian Academy of Sciences. I have two questions. The first question is, what would you do in case you became president or prime minister of Ukraine with rampant corruption?
А друге питання, чи хоч ви є мужчина з потужними кулаками, але, знаєте, там вже цілий ряд українських політиків пішов на другий світ. Чи ви не маєте обави щодо вашої особистої безпеки?
Although you are a man with huge and powerful fists, but a lot of Ukrainian politicians already are in a better world. That aren't you sometimes afraid for your life when you engage in politics?
Thank you for your question. It's a very interesting question. If we have a chance to change, and which priority have Ukraine, which priority is the steps we can do it. I want to tell its main points, just 4 points. Main value in Ukraine have to be human, not the money. Second one, повага до закону.
Respect for law.
Without that, we can build our society. Ми повинні побудувати побудова громадянського суспільства.
We must construct civil society.
І побудувати економіку рівних можливостей.
And build the economy of equal opportunities.
Це основні пункти, які повинні ми зробити, щоб далі ми змогли рухатись до демократичного суспільства. Без цих пунктів, без реалізації, на жаль, всі інші реформи не будуть мати ніякого ефекту.
These are the principal things we need to do in order to be able to move on further to democratic society.
Що стосується, what about my, I feel insecure, and sometimes with opening appointment with thousands of people, I use security, and the guys who care about not me, it's some so many people. It's no pressure, and sometimes the small children coming to make autogram. And one of journalists asked of security guy, "Oh, you care about Klychko?" And the security man tell, "You know what? To be honest, he can't care about me." Thank you for your question. And it's a very interesting question. It's one short speech. I explain about this example very often. I want to explain you some story. 1986, Ukraine, Kiev. Group of boys after the school go to some apartment and show sport event. In Soviet Union was forbidden to see professional boxing, but perestroika time, and we have a chance to see the professional fights, professional boxing fights. In this fight, youngest heavyweight champions, heavyweight won the world title. And I was so impressed. I just was beginner in boxing. I was so impressed from the fight. The guy holds the title above the hand. It was Mike Tyson. I was so impressed. I tell to my friends who sit together with me, in one day, I want to be world champion. I beat the guy and take the belt away. My friends look at me. I was so skinny. Look at muscle machine, Tyson, and starting to kidding me, make jokes. They don't know I have good memory. I memorize everyone who make jokes about me. 16 years later, I invite everyone with who we sit together and see the fight. Brings bag with me, take from the bag the belt. Exactly the same belt what holding Mike Tyson above the head. Put on the table and ask, guys, I remember the day when you make jokes about me, we saw the Tyson fight. Everybody tell, yeah, we remember that. And I ask, and now? Yeah, we don't know, it's some boy from our class, from our school, can be world heavyweight champion of the world. Why explain the story? It's very important. I see so many young people here. It's very important in life to have a dream. It's not just the dream to have, important. Important doing work very hard to make a dream true. And nothing is impossible. Any dream, what you have, you can realize. I reach my goal in sport. I have a dream. Ukraine will be modern European country. And we can do that. If you have a goal and somebody don't believe in you, make a jokes and smile, let's work. Don't think about that. And you need the time. We need the time. I'm more than sure. It's not just my dream. A dream of many thousands of millions of people. And we unite all people who support our political movement, who support our party, and who split and change with us our vision. And we know our dream we make true. Ukraine will be European country, not just geographically, not mentality or historically. We will be with all European country, with European standards of life. And I hope in a couple of years we meet together here, and I can explain how difficult it was to do that, but we did. Thank you.